Paula Reid is CBS News' justice reporter, and she joins me now. So, Paula, what are some of the other key differences between this travel ban and the last one issued by the administration?
Well, in addition to the fact that this no longer applies to Iraq, there's two big differences in terms of people who already have legal status and also the implementation of this travel ban. For the first one, for people who already have legal status, under the new ban, if you already have a visa, if you've already been granted refugee status and you have a scheduled date to come here, or if you've been granted asylum, this order does not apply to you. Your status doesn't just evaporate. And then when it comes to implementation, this doesn't take place for another 11 days. It doesn't actually go into effect. And Vlad, it was so important that we saw the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Justice, and the Department of State. He had his 3 cabinet secretaries all there together explaining the rollout and being behind this, because even though the president is the one who signs it, those agencies are the ones who are responsible for implementing this and ultimately defending it in court. So Vlad, a very different situation than what we had several weeks ago with the first travel ban.
And Paula, what about Syrian refugees? I mean, how does this new order deal with that issue?
They definitely made some changes for Syrian refugees. In the previous order, there was an indefinite ban on Syrian refugees. But here, refugees from Syria, they will be treated like refugees from any of these other 6 countries. And under this new travel order, what they've said is that if you have refugee status from one of these 6 countries and you have already been scheduled for transit to the United States by the State Department, then you're good. You can still come here. But for anyone else, there is a 120-day suspension of any new refugee statuses being granted. Now, they're also going to limit the number of refugees that they will take in fiscal year 2017 from about 100,000 down to 50,000. But we're also seeing that they said, hey, we're also going to do case-by-case waivers. If there's an exception that needs to be made, we'll take a look at it and possibly grant it.
And so, Paula, from a legal standpoint, do you see this order sticking, and what's going on with the last one?
Well, what they said is for the last order, they're going to make filings. The Department of Justice will file with those courts and say that they believe that many of those lawsuits are now moot, that this travel ban essentially solves all of those problems. But in terms of the future of this travel ban 2.0, will that succeed in the various lawsuits that will inevitably be filed? Vlad, I'm saying I think there's a good chance that this will survive. Here's why. Because this new travel ban really does address a lot of the concerns that the judges pointed out, specifically with exceptions, with nuance. The problem a lot of these judges had with the first ban was that it was a blanket ban. There weren't any carve-outs. And they tried to do it after the fact, say, oh, well, it wasn't supposed to apply to those people, or, oh, we'll make an exception here. And the judges said, no, you can't do it that way. You need to codify that. And that's what they've done here. They've put in all sorts of exceptions, case-by-case exceptions that they'll make, waivers that they'll grant. It's a much more nuanced ban. And I think, Vlad, that will help it survive judicial scrutiny. And for the biggest question that it's going to face, well, hey, is this a Muslim ban? It only applies to 6 predominantly Muslim countries. The response I'm getting from administration officials is that they will defend this as a ban that still allows millions of Muslims to come to the United States every year. And therefore, they're pretty confident that they will prevail on the legal merits.
All right, Paula Reid for us in Washington. Paula, thank you.